Okay,
Yeah.
so all right,
Yeah, so as long as you hit the little record button,
Mhm.
and then it'll when we're done, it'll start converting the video.
All right, I have it recording now. Then
All right, cool. Instantly, the last episode got to 37 plays
on the
on yeah, which is
okay, that's cool.
not bad actually.
I don't think I have that many on YouTube, but
No,
it wasn't a very popular subject anyway.
No, I'm not all that worried about it.
Yeah.
The was the Abu Dhabi one ended up at like 80, which was I was
really
yeah.
Well, I guess it's more of a listening thing than it is a watching thing.
Yeah, I mean we did the retrospective, and so I mean it was kind of mostly just because I felt like doing it. So, but yeah, I don't know.
We get started.
I didn't do, as is our custom. I didn't do really any kind of research. I just sort of watched the race, and I've been,
all right.
Reading stuff since then. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine,
guys. Welcome back to. I don't know if we're still calling it 107% F1 show. We were going to change it because of that the guy on Twitter, and the idea was, at least the main one I came up with, was we were going to call it Chaos F1, and I think that name is probably apt for what we just saw today.
It works for me. It was a hell of a race. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, the whole weekend was just super interesting. In the from practice, where it's like, okay, is anybody holding back? How much of what we're seeing is real? And then qualifying, and then finally to the race itself, where it was just madness. But not not like disorganized mess or anything like that. Just the good kind of chaos, I think, is what we got from the first weekend of the 2022 F1 season.
Yeah, I think there were a couple teams that pretty much ended up where everybody expected them to, and then there were quite a few teams that surprised everyone. So I guess Mercedes wasn't really lying this year for the first time when they said they weren't sandbagging.
No, and I had said to somebody that I will believe that Mercedes doesn't have a good car when I see them, like 6th and 7th on merit. And that was most of the day today. Was 5th and 6th was pretty much about where they could get to. I think Mercedes will be relieved with the result, but they cannot be happy with the performance of their car.
Right. Although I think they kind of expected it to be around there. I mean, they had been stating that Ferrari and Red Bull definitely looked better than them.
Oh, for sure. It certainly could have been worse for Mercedes.
Oh, yeah.
Again, with the results, they finished 3rd and 4th, which was great for them. But in race pace, they were still a full second off Ferrari and Red Bull. And Mercedes will get it. Well, I don't want to go too much into that. We can talk about that stuff after. We'll talk about the race. So Charles Leclerc put the car on pole, and there was like half a tenth in it between the top 3. So we thought that we were going to get something really good. And for the beginning of the race, Max and Charles Leclerc going at it for first place. It seems that this new aero package has developed, has delivered the kind of racing that we hoped that it would.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I've seen two cars going at it for 3-4 laps in a row where it legitimately looked like it wasn't super difficult to follow. Like I think Verstappen had DRS 3 or 4 laps in a row. And then you saw it throughout the grid too, just from P1 to P20 cars just battling the entire time, which was really, really good to see. I mean, we have had battling in the last few years, but it's been mainly like isolated to either at the front of the grid or 2 or 3 teams in the midfield. And today it was just good to see all the cars being able to battle.
Well, and prior to this, you would get yeah, you would get a battle like that, but it would be one lap and then usually
Yeah,
a
tires
couple
burn
laps
out.
in between, because you have to fall back out to 2 seconds behind,
Hmm.
recharge your batteries, and then you sort of had to charge up behind a guy because you didn't want to be in that, you know, half a second to a second and a quarter kind of no man's land.
Right.
Uh, you couldn't just hang around there where it looks like guys can just get to, 7, 8 tenths, get into DRS range, and then just hang around there and have DRS for 3 consecutive laps. So if that's what's going to happen throughout the season, then I think we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, but the issue was in the last few years was one, they were losing downforce on their
Mhm.
cars following so closely behind. So they weren't, they didn't have enough downforce to keep close behind. And if they were degrading their tires like crazy, heating them up. And then by the time they were ready to attack, their tires just were out of temperature range. And then number two, because of all that dirty air, their engines used to overheat like crazy too. So they couldn't push consistently without having their engines overheat and then either ending their race or wearing down the engine life for the next few races. So it's this new aero package is really helping out just across the board.
It is nice that you have that, because you have, I think Ferrari said something like 80% of the downforce is ground effect.
Yeah.
And, so you still have the wings on the cars, which is necessary
Mm-hmm.
for slow speed corners and stuff like that. But when you have that ground effect, it's clean, so you can have the smaller, kind of simpler wings that they have, less kind of jagged angles, like you
Mm-hmm.
see the shape of the front row wings, they're all curved, specifically so that the air coming off of the car is as clean as possible. And then the idea is the wake at the back of the car should come off the back of the car and then just go up rather
Yeah.
than, back and out. So, the FIA, they did a lot of work with Amazon AWS simulating stuff. I guess they forbade the teams from doing computer simulations with more than one car, but the FIA themselves could do simulations with more than one car. So
I wonder how they would even police that.
I honestly don't know, but from the first time that I read it, it sounded like it was just a question of computing power, where with AWS, the FIA was able to do that stuff and, run the simulation X amount of times and it would take like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the computers that the teams were using, without using the power of AWS, it would take full days or weeks to do
Oh,
the
okay.
simulation that the FIA could do in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So, but then I read something else that sounded like they just straight up forbade them from doing it. So I don't know if it was that or if it was really just that they physically could not. But it seems like, the FIA was able to see how the cars would work together in a way that the teams would not.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but for whatever reason, it seems to have worked. And obviously we talked a lot about the cars on our last episode, and it's also nice to see how many different concepts there are and how different the cars all look and all that stuff. So, but to go back to, when we were talking about the way the racing works, I think that was probably part of Max's problem with Leclerc was, I guess he would get up behind him and then his brakes would overheat.
Yeah.
And so he would only really get one look at him before the brakes would start to overheat and then you have to back off. So
He was diving from really far back too. He was working
yeah,
those brakes. So
the first 2 times when he didn't lock up too, I mean, those were just nicely done moves.
yeah.
And, there was a lot of worrying on Twitter about Max and Leclerc going into turn one side by side because neither of them are really renowned for, giving an inch.
Yeah, I mean they've been battling ever since karting, So
yeah,
I mean there is a video on YouTube of like 12-year-old Max and Leclerc
right.
heated after an incident on track at a karting event.
Well, I guess they raced very cleanly today. I mean, it's probably different that, it's not racing against Hamilton for a championship like it was in the last couple of races of last season. So it's the first race of the season. You're still feeling out the cars and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
no reason to
I thought
push
that
it.
they raced hard. I thought they both raced very fairly with each other, left plenty of room. It's just, for some reason, Max was just hung up on trying to make that move in the first DRS zone instead of just trying to stay close and then making the move in the second DRS zone where Leclerc just kept taking the lead back. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it was maybe because of the way that, because the Ferrari seems to have excellent traction and acceleration coming out of turns. So I don't know if that was just the way that Max thought would be his best chance if he didn't think that he could do it the other way. But I don't know. I mean, I was grateful for it. It was fabulous to watch.
Yeah, the only thing I would think is that the second DRS straight is much shorter, but Max definitely had the straight line speed on the Ferraris. But you're right, the Ferraris did look like they had better cornering speed. So I'm not really sure. Maybe he wanted to get ahead and just try and create a gap so that Leclerc couldn't get him back at the start of the next lap. I'm not really sure what his reasoning was. One thing I did notice during this race is Perez was sticking a lot closer to Max than he normally does. I know it's only been one race, but I wonder if that's got anything to do with the floor of the car now, because Max is usually really comfortable in oversteery cars with that high rake angle. And now, since they're going back to using ground effects, the car is pretty much flat on the ground. There's no steep angle at the back anymore. And I wonder if the car being more understeery than the last era of the regulations, if that's kind of been hampering him a little bit, because even Sainz was sticking pretty close to the back of Verstappen, and it didn't seem like the Ferraris were that much faster. I think Max was still within like 2-3 seconds of Leclerc for most of the race. So to see that has me a little bit worried that he's not beating his teammate. Like I said again, it's only the first race, but usually he's finishing like 30 seconds ahead of Perez. So
yeah, I think it was before the safety car, and obviously they both made their pit stops. Maybe a dozen seconds, something like that.
Yeah,
that Max had, and I guess if he was having, I don't think he was having the power. It wasn't actually a power steering issue. It was just a steering track rod that had bent when they let the car down off the jack. Apparently, that was the problem he had.
Ouch.
Well, the car's overweight. What do you want?
Yeah.
That's a portly car. They drop it off the jack and bend the steering. Yeah, even in qualifying, Checo was only a quarter of a second off of Max.
Yeah, it's a lot closer than he's been.
And
for last year,
I think it probably does. I mean, I think last season the car was an evolution of the previous year's car, which Max had driven. Checo was coming from the Racing Point, which was that, low rake aero concept, which is a little bit more like what he has now.
Yeah.
Low rake, no rake in any of these cars this season. So yeah, I could just see where it's just, I still don't think he's going to beat Max, but it's a car that maybe suits Checo
a little bit better.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I thought the end of the race, as bad as it was for Max, I thought that Checo's was maybe more unfair, just because you saw Max slowing down and he was on the radio and he was talking about it. Checo, the rear axle, either for the engine or transmission, just locked up and he spun.
Yeah.
And so everybody's online. Oh, Checo, he spun around when Hamilton was hassling him. It's like, well, the
engine seized.
It literally, the back end of the car literally seized. That's why it was a DNF. Not why he didn't spin around and then finish 12th.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was a little bit. People are being a little bit unfair to Checo.
It's F1 fandom, man.
Yeah, dude, it's been nuts. So Ferrari won too. Encouraging. I mean, for the season, like I don't want Mercedes to be bad.
No.
I'm good if Mercedes, like if it's an exciting season and all that stuff, and Lewis Hamilton wins his 8th championship, I'm fine with that. I don't care. I'd like to see somebody else win. I'd love to see Ferrari win.
Yeah.
And then but I didn't. I'll be interested to see what Sainz can do with Leclerc, because he wasn't close to Leclerc for most of the race.
No. I think he was probably about 15 to 20 seconds behind Leclerc after about lap 15 or so. But he qualified pretty darn close to Leclerc. I don't know
inside a 10th.
Yeah.
It was a little more than half a tenth, I think, from him to, from Leclerc to Sainz, and then Max in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, it was like 0.13 seconds. So
a little over 10.
Yeah,
okay.
A little over 10. Yeah, he looked good in qualifying. He looked good in practice. And then come race time, I'm not sure if strategy had anything to do with it, or maybe he just got off to a poor start. He ended it pretty strong, though. It's not like they were getting too far away from him. 15 seconds or so before the safety car came out, Gasly's safety car. It wasn't too bad. I mean, he was within the range that Perez was to Verstappen.
So after that, of course, you have your Mercedes 3-4, Lewis Hamilton stealing a podium.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's Mercedes. It's, you don't make the big mistakes, and something like that happens to Red Bull. I mean, let's face it, they were 5th and 6th, I think, on merit the entire race. And Mercedes would certainly not tell you otherwise. They were fortunate to score 3rd and 4th place points. So I mean, I think they'll be relieved by that, but they can't be happy with what's going on with their car right now.
No, I think on the plus side, both the Red Bulls DNF'd. Even if their car is slow now, it's Mercedes. They're going to be able to pick up.
They'll figure it
from
out
here. Yeah. So it does give them a little bit of help that the Red Bulls didn't pick up any points today. So that'll give them a race or two for Mercedes to be able to fix whatever the problem is. What's kind of discouraging is, other than the Mercedes power cars finished outside the points.
Yeah, they were all trash.
And the Mercedes didn't look particularly quick either. Like if you look at the speed trap speed trap, which is a little bit before the end of the DRS straight, and then at the end of the DRS straight when they're braking for the turn 1, the Mercedes power unit was the slowest all weekend.
If it was just Mercedes having the issue, I would feel differently about it because of their because of the problems that they're having with the aero. It makes sense for the Mercedes to not be all that fast, because to counter the porpoising, you have to raise the car, which means you're going to lose downforce, which means you're going to have to put more wing on the car. So the car is going to make more drag. It makes sense for the Mercedes to not be all that fast. Aston Martin, they're also having problems with porpoising, but McLaren is not. McLaren has not had the same problems with porpoising as everybody else. The car is simply slow.
Yeah.
That's, that like, and I mean, if it was, I mean, let's face it, they all have issues with porpoising to one extent or another. It's not just a Mercedes powered team phenomena. So, the fact that it's okay, yeah, all of the Ferrari teams are up at the top, and the Honda teams, plenty of poke, for the Red Bulls and the Alpha Tauris, they were making plenty of power. And then, yeah, it's all of your Mercedes teams down at the bottom of the speed charts, which is crazy. Although I actually consistently the fastest Mercedes powered car in the speed traps all weekend was one Alexander Albon.
Yeah.
In Williams.
Yeah. So, well, I think that had to do with the fact that they were running less aero because of how slow the car was.
Yeah.
So I think I read somewhere that they had admitted that they were using less aero to kind of compensate for their speed. So that might be why they were the Williams were a little bit quicker. But hey, I'll take that win for Alex.
Right, absolutely. He had a very good weekend, Alex Albon. But
he did.
We'll get to Albon in a moment.
When we get to those teams,
you can speak on Alex Albon.
I'll gush over him.
I know. So the problem with Mercedes now, they'll fix the car, but while they're fixing the car, Ferrari and Red Bull will be improving their car. Yeah. So even once they have it figured out, they'll still be in a little bit of a hole. But I think it's a very good point that you made that Red Bull scoring no points, it does take a little bit of pressure off of Mercedes. They have, if it would come out and it was Red Bull 1-2 and then Mercedes 5 and 6, well, now you're fighting from behind, where now Mercedes does have the luxury of fighting from ahead, which is good.
That's if Red Bull is even the team number one for them to be worrying about, which it looks like they're not.
It might not be.
Yeah.
So you did have at the end of the race, Max Verstappen, according to, did you hear the audio of Bono talking to Lewis?
I did not.
So he was talking about the order. He said, Leclerc's first, and he said Verstappen is P2, and he's been the exact wording is he said he's been moaning about his power steering on the radio.
Oh, geez.
And they I don't
trying
think
to
they
do the
like
Christian
each other
Horner
very
thing,
much.
huh?
Yeah, but of course, but it wasn't that. It was the steering track rod, which I'm like, well, that's interesting. So it looked like it was going to be that, it was going to be Ferrari Red Bull, right up until it wasn't. And
I mean, what a way to go. Including Gasly, 3 of the 4 Red Bull cars DNF'd in the last 10 laps.
When Gasly went out, I really didn't think much of it because because one car going out really doesn't mean anything. And then when Max started having the issues, and then Checo, because even before Checo had the motor or the transmission lockup, whichever one it was, he said he was losing battery performance as well.
Yeah,
I was having the same issue that Max was.
I think Red Bull came out and said that they were fuel pump issues for both of the cars.
Yeah,
I think that's what they said.
And that is I was actually just reading about that. It's not even, because that's a spec part.
Okay.
That's distributed by the FIA, so all the teams have the same part. And there's been an issue with the fuel pump all through testing, in that they mount the fuel pump, and I guess it's like in resin or something like that. And I don't know if it's because of the E10 fuel or something like that, but the casings of the electronics are cracking and letting gasoline get in there and short it. So I don't know if that's what happened to Red Bull, but the teams were allowed to check their fuel pumps before and replace them if need be. And then they actually, with the cars in Parc Fermé, the FIA after the race is allowing the teams to take a look at their fuel pumps. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be a little bit of it's a new part for this year, I guess. So they might need to make some sort of change on that. And
it's weird though, if it only affected the Red Bulls.
I mean, that might just be chance, or maybe they mount it in a different way that the other teams don't. So maybe it affected them more than the other teams. I don't really know.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what caused the fire for Gasly's engine too.
I had heard somebody said that was an electrical fire, so it certainly could be.
Yeah.
I don't think it was something with the hybrid system, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that'd be interesting if the fuel pump caused all 3 DNFs. I mean,
that would be wild. I guess that's probably better if you're Red Bull. That's probably better than having 3 distinct issues.
Right. Because it's just the one thing you got to fix.
Yeah. If it's just the fuel pump, you can say, okay, well, so there's no overarching problem with their motor. It's fine. It was the FIA supplied fuel pump that caused them the issue. So, So the last 15 laps of the race, I suppose, were very interesting and not necessarily in the way that you want for Red Bull. Mercedes, I guess even Lewis was able to hassle Sainz a little bit towards the end of the race.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hamilton and Russell, to an extent, probably, I think, really flattered that Mercedes car this weekend.
Yeah, I think so.
Lewis being able to hang around a little bit with the Ferrari. I mean, the gap at the end ended up still being 3.5, 4 seconds, whatever. But Lewis really, it's easy. It shouldn't be. It's easy to forget how really good Lewis Hamilton is. We speak about it a lot, how good Lewis Hamilton is. But I mean, in that car, which, with the issues he's had, finishing third, even, he should have been further back, but man, I don't know, just sticking with it and doing what he does. It's always just impressive watching him work.
Yeah, I think that car in the hands of lesser drivers probably wouldn't have been close to P5 and P6 before the incidents. So
and I think Russell was very good too. I think he's,
he wasn't that far behind Hamilton the entire race.
No, and aside from qualifying where he binned, his last lap there, so he was like a second off, he was faster than Lewis in almost every session.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to be like a Valtteri type thing where maybe he out qualifies Lewis because Russell is kind of a little bit of a Mr. Saturday.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch this year. What does George do? If he's coming up to pass Lewis and he's quicker, well, they're certainly not going to make Lewis get out of the way. Can George fight him?
I'm sure they'll.
Are they going to let him?
I'm sure they'll tell him what they used to tell Bottas, which is you guys can battle, but take it easy.
Right.
But then again, at that point, Lewis and Valtteri were always P1 and P2, so they could let them battle. I don't know if Lewis is sitting in P3 and George is coming up behind him and Lewis looks like he has a chance to finish higher, they might have to pull team orders. But still early days. So I'm assuming they're going to let them battle a little bit, but considering what their pace looked like today, maybe, tell them to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. He'll have to have the pace first. So I guess we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
So gotten through the top 4,
which
means now we talk about the guy who finished 5th.
Go Team USA.
And Team USA, the best story of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just in general, Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah.
We didn't get to do a testing show, but that was just wild the way the entire Magnussen thing came together. Because
I think most fans were thinking Fittipaldi was coming in. I don't even know if K-Mag's name was even in the discussion.
Not until the day before
his
signing was announced.
Yeah.
Because so it was it was Fittipaldi, and it was like, all right, well, if that's going to be the guy, then that's Haas saying, we don't think much of our car.
Yeah, I think Fittipaldi is a downgrade from Mazepin, honestly.
Yeah, Mazepin did win races or a race, I suppose, in F2.
Yeah.
Fittipaldi, who I like, seems like a really nice kid.
He's a great kid.
But that doesn't make you a quick F1 driver.
No.
So it was going to be between him and Hulkenberg and Piastri. And that was all that we were hearing. And then it was like, oh yeah, it'll probably be Hulkenberg or Piastri. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, hey, rumors are that they're talking to Kevin Magnussen. It's like, wait, K-Mag's coming back?
Yeah.
And then I think I was at work or something like that. And you just texted me. It's like, yeah, Haas just announced K-Mag. I was like, what the hell just happened?
I did not see that coming.
No, I really didn't either. I guess they parted on reasonably good terms. I think Kevin had a very good understanding of what it was that Haas needed to do. Why they were doing what they did with Mick and Mazepin. And he got to come to IMSA, drove DPIs for a little bit. That was cool. But then just Magnussen shows up and Haas has that almost kind of disaster with their stuff being shipped to Bahrain for testing.
Yeah.
They show up half a day late, or actually, I think they showed up 2 days later than everybody else. Missed the first testing.
They got their own private testing at the end of day 3.
Magnussen gets in the car, and during the private testing at the end, he puts the car P1.
Yeah,
I realized it was testing, and everybody kind of thought
it was at night. It was cooler on the track.
Oh yeah, and we all figured, all right, well, Haas is, there was no fuel in that car. They turned the engine all the way up, and they're trying to get some sponsors. And then the next day, Mick did the exact same thing. I think he put the car P2 behind Verstappen, and just you were watching the car go around, and it's like, that looks like a pretty good race car.
Yeah,
and Kevin Magnussen he put the car, qualified the car 7th. And finished 5th. I mean, and for Haas, who I think Magnussen just scored more points today than Haas scored in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, well, it wasn't going to take much to really do that. That wasn't.
No. It's nice.
I was going to say Schumacher's qualifying time wasn't that bad either.
He was only 3/10 off Magnussen.
Yeah,
I think
3/4 Q2. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. Yeah, Haas put both cars through to Q2, and then Magnussen through to Q3. And
I think if Ocon doesn't turn Schumacher around,
he probably would have scored points today too.
I think he would have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, and that was pretty. He was quick. The Mercedes. I realize again the Mercedes have their issues right now, but they didn't exactly run away and hide from Kevin Magnussen.
No, he after the race in an interview, he said he could see a Mercedes almost the entire race. Like, he wasn't that far behind them, which is impressive for a Haas.
But but then he was easily able to stay ahead of. He was comfortably the best of the rest.
Yeah, I mean, he was still battling when they were trying to, like, the Mercedes and Perez were trying to overtake him. He was battling.
Oh yeah,
was it Perez?
I think where he had that kind of he had the lockup.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was with Perez or if it was with Russell.
It was earlier in the race when he was up in like P4 or P5 and he was being passed. But yeah, he put up a heck of a fight. He didn't let them overtake him easily.
Well, no, he had a really nice start on the race. Didn't fall to the back or anything like that. Held his position, as opposed to Valtteri, who had a terrible start, fell back, and then ended up coming back up through, which was nice.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just it's after last season with all the kind of animosity and whatnot, it is refreshing. Literally everybody was just like, oh no, that's great that Haas did that. That's great that Magnussen's back.
It's like a totally new team this year. I mean, I know they have a new driver, not a new driver, but a different driver from last year. Gunther Steiner is smiling in the paddock.
Love
haven't
Steiner.
seen that in
He's
a while.
Best.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I just feel good about this Haas team. Feel good about K-Mag. I feel awful that Schumacher didn't get to score a point.
He
almost did.
I mean he got dumped by Ocon. I mean, came right around and was able to just pick it up and keep moving, which was nice.
Yeah, and then got passed by Guan Yu Zhou like on the second to last lap.
And I thought that was a little bit of an odd choice, leaving him out on the soft tires, but I suppose that was.
He got track
if
position.
He would have came in for the tires and then didn't pass anybody, that's where he would have finished anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess it's look, if you're Haas, you have one car running at the time in 7th, and you're happy with that. Yeah, you can take a shot, something like that with Mick. Why not?
Yeah, I think also because he wasn't lapped at that point, I think they kept him out to keep him up with the leaders and try to fight for points. Otherwise, he would have been like 30 seconds behind, like Stroll and the rest of the other cars that got lapped. So I think that's why they kept him out.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was not a bad weekend from Mick, and it is he was a rookie last season, but he also had limited running and testing. With the problems, because Haas did have reliability problems a couple of the days. I mean, just honestly, as probably as good a weekend as Haas could possibly imagine that they were going to have.
Yeah, I mean, with the car not getting there on time for the preseason testing, and then all that turmoil going on with Earl Cali and Mazepin.
Hmm.
Just a lot of stuff that could have thrown them off this weekend. They put it all out of their minds, and they put in probably the best performance they've had since 2018, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would have to be
yeah,
because they have, I think, fifth equals their best ever finish,
yeah.
unless they had a fourth. But it was certainly
I don't,
Magnussen that did it.
yeah. I
Grosjean
don't
might have
think
also
so.
had a fifth. I forget.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember people saying like Magnussen and Grosjean like the worst drivers on the grid back when
which
they
is
were there.
a
Yeah,
ridiculous thing to say. They were
right.
on the grid with Lance Stroll.
Yeah. Because Grosjean has been on the podium before,
Yeah.
back when he was in a good car. When you're in a car that is that shitty, you need to drive on the edge.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be coming in last all the time. So you either
Mhm.
drive on the edge and maybe score a point or two, or you just don't even bother showing up, you know?
It's the driver equivalent to what Williams did with their car last year.
Yeah.
Williams knew they could be last comfortably every single race, or they could build a car that would be way last a lot of the races and maybe would fight for the odd point here or there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the guys that they had to be. They had to be elbows out. But the Haas was always, it always had that flaw. It was always bad on tires.
Yeah. They were always doing
Yeah,
one more pit stop than every other team.
yeah, and it just seemed like they qualified really well, and then they would fade in the race because of the tires. So they'd qualify 7th and finish 11th and 12th or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to see that they were able to run a nice complete race, the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any big glaring fault in that car.
No. Yeah.
It'll be, hopefully they're able to keep up with development and keep up with the Alpines and Alfa Romeos and all the teams around them.
Yeah. They look like they're the best of the rest right now.
I say Magnussen in that car, and again, and Mick was not far off of him.
Yeah.
But
Unlucky.
Magnussen, just something about him in that car just worked.
Yeah.
It is funny to think, because so last time that we talked, Haas was still sponsored by Uralkali.
Yep.
And their other driver was still Nikita Mazepin.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can think of is, wow, so literally Kevin Magnussen was the difference between Haas scoring, was it 9 points, or is it 9 points for fifth? Or 10?
10 points.
I think it's 10.
10 points, yeah.
Between Haas scoring 10 points today and 0.
Yeah.
So, because Mazepin would have been behind Mick.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I know for sure.
Yeah. Definitely sure. I wonder where Schumacher would have finished if he hadn't been turned around, because obviously the Haas has pace, but Schumacher's still young. As much as people talk about it, he's definitely not better than Kevin Magnussen at this point in his career.
I think he probably would have been 10th.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it. He
10th.
would have still been probably behind both the Alpines and behind Yuki.
He might
maybe
have
ahead of Zhou.
He could have been even P7, though I guess P9 if the Red Bulls had finished, because he was in front of Ocon. He qualified better than Ocon.
Yeah.
No, he didn't qualify better than Ocon, but he was ahead of Ocon when he got spun. And the Haas definitely has more pace than the Alpine looked like it did. So I think he would have. Yeah, I think he would have finished.
Yeah, you're right.
P7.
Yeah, he could have been further up there.
Yeah.
Mazepin still would have been. Trundling around at the back.
Yeah.
Although I gotta say, even he probably would have been gapping the McLarens and the Aston Martins.
Yeah, well, that's not really hard.
Now, so nice weekend for Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
Had to have been interesting to him to qualify right next to Lewis Hamilton again,
and in front of Russell
on the third row.
Yeah. Next to your old teammate and in front of the guy that replaced you.
You gotta love that.
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo, that car looks pretty good.
It did. I'm not really sure how to grade the car. Or I should say, I don't know. I don't really know how to grade Guan Yu Zhou, just because we see that the car is actually pretty fast.
Yeah. I
But it's not
was
like he's a terrible racer. He's won F2 races.
no, I like
So
Joe. I
yeah.
thought that he did. I mean, look, he scored points on his rookie debut. What do you
Hmm.
want?
Yeah. And
I
he
think
was
the
up there on
car.
merit too
Oh, for sure.
before the
Um,
DNFs anyway.
he, a lot of times for rookies, it's yeah, man, just maximize what you can do and kind of stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Try not to
Um,
crash.
I didn't see anything where that he did that was like, oh, that was a rookie mistake or that was dumb or or even like a pass that he made that it was like, well, he made it work, but probably wasn't his best idea.
Yeah.
He seemed to just kind of run a nice controlled race. I think, he obviously, they were a little bit lucky with the Red Bull thing to
Hmm.
score a point, but
Yeah.
it was
But
deserved. He
even
hung.
without that though, he still had a decent race.
No, he basically spent the whole race a couple seconds behind his teammate.
Yeah. For the most
It's
part.
again, it's the same kind of thing you saw at the pack as Valtteri didn't like run away and hide. Joe was not slow.
Yeah.
He was fine. He's one of those guys that technically he's a pay driver, but I do think that he has the talent level
Yeah. You still have
to
to
be
be
there.
able to, yeah, you still have to be able to drive.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody with money can just get into F1. No team is stupid
No.
enough to pick them up, I mean, like the kid can still drive a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Seems like a real sweetheart of a guy too. So just
yeah.
just seems like a really nice kid. So
Yeah.
which I like to see. Nobody likes a-holes.
Yeah.
The
Good day
Alpines.
for them though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. The Alpines finishing 7th and 9th. I really nice nice race for Ocon because I mean he passed Fernando and
He
then
did. He looked
basically
quicker.
just kind of drove away from him.
Yeah, he looked much quicker than Alonso did all race. It's starting 4 spots behind him.
Mhm.
Other than that little issue on lap 1 with Schumacher, where he got a 5-second penalty, even with the 5-second penalty, he still finished in front of his teammate.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive.
Mhm.
Yeah, quiet day for Alonso though. I mean, didn't have an amazing race. I think 7th and 9th is generally where I thought the Alpines would be.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
not too
Yeah.
surprising from them. Funny thing is, they were actually pretty quick in the speed trap too. So that Renault engine looks like whatever they did last year seems to be working just fine. They're keeping pace with the midfield pack.
It's weird that all of a sudden now we're talking about engines and it's the Mercedes seems to be the one that everybody's kind of like, yeah, I don't know about that thing.
Yeah, I wonder if the new E10 fuel has anything to do with it too.
It's I mean, look, whatever it is at this point, the engines are homologated for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and a bunch of their engineers have been poached in the last year or two. So
that's certainly not helping.
Yeah.
There's although look at the fact is at the end of the race, the Mercedes engines were running and the Red Bulls were not.
Yeah.
What's one of my? I think I'd said on Twitter that one of my favorite car quotes is just I said, "Look, man, the Mercedes will run like shit longer than most other engines will run at all."
Yeah.
So it might be slow, but at least it went the race distance.
Yeah. I mean, I sincerely hope that it's not an engine issue with those guys. It could just be aero philosophy.
It seems to be at least with the Mercedes that seems to be the issue.
Because most of those cars have because the Aston Martin, the Williams, and the Mercedes, all three of them have porpoising issues. So I'm hoping it's just they built their car around the engine. The aero just needs a little bit more fine tuning, and it's not the actual engine itself.
No, and again, that makes sense for the Mercedes because I mean the car is narrower, so it has less frontal area in the body, so it should be less drag. So the fact that they had to run more wing on it to make more drag, of course, the car's not going to be that quick.
Yeah.
So then, of course, our only finishing Red Bull car, Yuki Tsunoda, finished 8th. That's a good weekend for Yuki.
Yeah, he would have been in the points even if the Red Bulls had finished. I think Gasly was P6. I think he was in front of Bottas.
He was behind Magnussen. Yeah, Magnussen had passed him on the track.
Yeah, so Gasly finishing P6 and Yuki finishing P10. I think AlphaTauri would have considered that a decent day.
Yeah, they would have been all right with that, I would say.
Yeah. Obviously Yuki's still not close to Gasly. I don't really know how far back he was when Gasly DNF'd. I'm sure AlphaTauri would like to see him a little bit closer, but I think for race one of this year, I don't think they could have, been disappointed with that finish had Gasly have finished.
Yeah, for sure. So to go through the rest of the pack, 11th, Lance Stroll. Yeah, I'm over here talking smack about Lance Stroll.
12th.
Yeah. Was it 12th? All right, sorry.
Yeah. 12th Stroll.
And Schumacher, and then let's talk a little bit about Alexander Albon.
Yeah.
So as the resident Albon expert, how would you grade Alex Albon?
We're doing letter grades. I'd say he got like a solid B. With what he had, the car that he had, I think I would have liked to have seen him, get his elbows out a little bit more. Some of those passes looked pretty easy, but I think maybe that was just the team telling him, don't even waste time fighting. They're going to get past us anyway. Just try to save as much time as you can with certain cars. He qualified a full second ahead of Latifi.
Yep.
I know everybody was saying that Latifi might be giving Albon a challenge this year. I don't see it.
I like Nicholas Latifi.
Yeah.
He mostly stays out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't usually see him making big mistakes, but he's not super quick. I think the thing about Albon going into the season was like, well, look, he should beat Nicholas Latifi.
Yeah.
Albon is a legitimately talented driver. And, people just want to remember what happened at Red Bull, and specifically with him, with they race me so hard, I think is,
Yeah.
But he's quick. And yeah, he mopped the floor with Nicholas Latifi, which is what he ought to do.
Mm-hmm.
He should go 23-0 against Nicholas Latifi this season. The thing somebody pointed out was Albon put a second on Nicholas Latifi in qualifying. Last season in Bahrain, George Russell out qualified Latifi by 0.6.
Yeah.
Ergo, Alex Albon is better than George Russell.
I mean, they were saying, some of the pundits were saying that Albon put in a George Russell-esque performance in qualifying and in the race, kind of dragging that car further up the grid than it probably deserved to be. And people forget that he only finished 7 points behind Lando Norris the year that they were in F2 that last year. So it's not like there was a huge gap between those drivers. And everybody always talks about Lando Norris like he's the next big thing, which I'm not.
Well, British bias.
Yeah.
I realize Albon is also British,
but he doesn't race under the British flag.
No.
Yeah. So, I don't really think Norris is as great of a driver as everybody else claims he is. I think he's a good, solid driver, but I think George Russell is probably the best out of those three. Well, definitely he is the best. And I don't think Albon's that far behind. And yeah, like you said, that last year with Red Bull really kind of tainted his or fans.
It was such a bad spot.
Yeah.
With the way that Red Bull was doing second drivers at the time, nobody was really getting all that long of a look. They gave Albon longer than they gave Gasly.
Yeah.
But that car was still designed around Max, and we know the kind of car that Max likes to drive, and it's not for everybody.
No.
He wants that kind of knife edge, he wants the car to turn when he turns in, and if he has to catch it, so be it.
Yeah.
And not everybody likes that. Not everybody, he's Max Verstappen. He's still probably the fastest guy on the grid right now. So yeah, measuring up against Max is always going to be kind of difficult. And, if it was just a car that didn't suit him, then whatever. So, hopefully Williams can improve their car, because, nobody likes seeing a Williams trundling around at the back.
No, I mean, and from the sounds of it, it looks like they kind of know what the issue is. And I assume they've already been working on the problem, either building new parts or researching new parts. And, hopefully in the next like handful of races, 4 or 5 races, they'll bring some upgrades that'll help them draw a little bit more speed out of that car. But I think Albon had a pretty decent weekend. Latifi, I mean, for Nicholas Latifi, he was ahead of the McLarens for a little while, for a good chunk of the races of the race.
That is damning with the absolute faintest of praise.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the McLarens were on mediums at the beginning, but Ricardo was still having trouble getting in front of Latifi in a Williams. So
I don't so we'll shift gears here and we'll talk about the McLarens. That car seems to be just, it's unfortunate in that they're in the spot where like it seems to be working fine, it's just slow. Because
I mean, they did have Ricardo out for all of testing with the COVID.
Which wasn't going to help. And then they had the brake cooling issues, so they didn't get a ton of running. But and then he was having to do, even today, a lot of like lift and coast and heating up the brakes 3 laps into the race, and they're telling him that he has to lay off the brakes a little bit.
That's crazy.
So I mean, that car is a mess, and it's unfortunate because I mean, look, everybody loves Daniel Ricciardo. He's great. Lando Norris,
I'm worried about Ricardo.
Look, it's going to drive me nuts when I go on the race tomorrow and Ed Straw gives Daniel Ricciardo a 5 and gives Norris like an 8 for that race yesterday. But it's just, I don't know. Like, Ricciardo didn't have any time in testing.
But still, a driver of his caliber, I expect a little bit more.
I didn't expect a lot, but I wasn't shocked that he had the race that he did. But if you look at all the stuff that he's having to do just to get the car around, you weren't going to compete with anybody.
It's not just him.
McLaren finishing 14th and 15th was like a gift. I mean, because they were 16th, 17th before the Red Bulls died. 17th, 18th, I think was their spot before before the 2 Red Bulls and the Alpha Tauri went out. Which is bananas. I don't know. I don't know what they're supposed to do with that.
And Norris didn't look that bad in qualifying.
No, he definitely dragged that car a little bit higher up than he should have.
He qualified 0.6 ahead of Albon, and then I don't know if maybe starting on the mediums was the best idea. They were the only 2 cars that started on mediums. Everybody else started on softs. And then by the time they went in for their next pit stop, they were already so far behind that they were literally battling Latifi and Stroll and Hulkenberg.
Yeah, I think you can do that on the mediums if you had a faster car. That car didn't have, on the harder tire on the medium, it wasn't going to have enough pace in hand to stay ahead of a Williams or an Aston Martin or anything at all. If you were Ferrari or Red Bull, you probably could have started on the mediums and stayed ahead of the Mercedes, but they didn't have any sort of pace to be able to do that. It didn't look like the car was difficult to drive or anything like that, except insofar as how much they were having to lift and coast and all that kind of crap.
I guess when you're going that slow, it's not going to look difficult.
No, not particularly. Hopefully they get that under control, because I was hoping to see Ferrari and McLaren be the top 2 teams this season. I thought that would have been fun.
I think McLaren doesn't seem to be
something that's going to happen.
I think McLaren finishing so low in this first race is upsetting a lot of people's preseason picks. Because I've been watching
mine.
I've been watching a lot of those, and they were putting McLaren like 4th and 4th and 5th, and geez, they're not even close to that right now.
I think it was maybe because in testing that porpoising was such a big issue. The
Yeah.
fact that McLaren didn't seem to be having the porpoising issues that everybody else did, we thought meant that they mostly had it under control. But I guess there are other issues, the brake cooling and all that stuff, the Mercedes engine, apparently, just being that the car is not all that fast right now.
Well, hopefully they'll have a better week next week. It's Saudi Arabia. I don't think there's too many hard braking zones at Saudi Arabia. Maybe 2, and that's about it. So if it is just a brake issue with McLaren, hopefully they'll perform a little bit better next week.
Yeah. Eniko Hulkenberg finishes 17th. Much like the man that will replace him next week, assuming that he tests negative for COVID, really deserved better than the car that Aston Martin gave him.
I'm hoping that once Vettel comes back, because Hulkenberg didn't get any practice in, right? The preseason running. Yeah.
No, and that was the thing about Lance Stroll was Hulkenberg shows up having driven one Formula One race a year for the last 2 years.
Yeah. And then 3 free practices. Yeah.
Like what are we doing?
By almost 3/10 too.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, I'd say hopefully we see Hulkenberg again this season, but then that means that somebody's missing a race.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It sucks for him, I guess. He could have been in the Haas,
Yeah.
If,
so close, man.
I mean, he probably, if he was in the Haas, I mean, I think he scores some points. I don't know if he does what Magnussen did. He might have actually.
Maybe, I mean, Magnussen was out for a year. Hulkenberg's been out for 2 years, filling in here or there. And I don't think Hulkenberg's a bad driver either.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, Hulkenberg's a good driver. I think Magnussen was the better choice for Haas.
Yeah, for that environment.
Yeah, and he, more aggressive, familiar with the team, all that kind of stuff. That obviously it seems to have been the correct choice for Haas. So
you want to do? I was gonna say 3 winners, 3 losers.
That's where I was heading.
All right.
Who do you like? Who are your 3 winners?
Hang on, I made a list. Give me 1 second.
Oh, good, you made a list. Yeah, go for it. This break brought to you by Wheat Thins. Wheat Thins. They're square, they're crunchy, they taste like wheat. Wheat Thins.
I'm talking to the 2 viewers?
Yeah, no, I was plugging our sponsor, Wheat Thins.
Oh, okay. All right. My top 3. Number 1, Leclerc. Number 2, Magnussen. And number 3, Valtteri Bottas.
Really? Bottas number 3? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah. I just think for the car, after what happened to him last year, losing that seat, to finish P6, even though the Red Bull's DNF, I think is a solid finish for him. Not solid, but really, really good finish for him. I think that's probably higher than most people would have given him before the start of the weekend. Finished P6, brought home 8 points for a team that scored how many points last year? 0? 1?
0. Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised that he was up there and he stayed up there. He's just number 3 on the list, though. I still have.
No, I'm sorry. No, Alfa scored points last year, right?
I think if they did, it was just like.
No, they did. But no, Haas was the only team that scored 0.
Okay, so I think Alfa scored like 2 points or something like that. It wasn't that many.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough that they beat Haas.
Yeah, but I have Leclerc number 1. Obviously, just had a hell of a weekend, amazing qualifying, and then amazing race to be able to keep Verstappen behind, and have 2 amazing out laps, or in laps that kept him ahead of Verstappen. Even though Verstappen claimed he could have gone faster, even though the numbers don't really justify his complaint. I have Leclerc number 1, and then Magnussen number 2, obviously coming in short notice. And then finishing P5, I think was more than Haas could have asked for.
I think my top winner would just be Ferrari in general.
Yeah.
Obviously they put the two cars 1-2, but then their power unit also, I think most people think Ferrari has the most powerful engine right now.
Yeah.
And
well, they did bring an upgrade like late last year that saw benefits too. So
they worked on the hybrid system at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And given that the engines are now homologated until 2026, having the most powerful engine and a reliable engine is certainly where you want to be right now.
Yeah.
So their actual team was really good, and the Alfa Romeos and the Haas's both looked excellent.
Yeah.
Number 2, I will go Kevin Magnussen. Again, it can't overstate how great it is that Magnussen's back and that Haas is good and that they scored 5th place points for this when he's been back with the team for a week and a half. So just a great story, a great result, and I think hopefully it'll continue to be great for the rest of the season going forward. And third, I'm gonna go with Zhou, because I like points on debut. I think he was he did a good solid job. For his first F1 weekend, he Valtteri was quicker, but you would have expected him to be. It was a good weekend for him. And I didn't see him screw anything up, and the Alfa Romeo looks like a pretty good car, so I don't think that'll be the only point that he scores this season.
I don't think so too. He had a good qualifying too, made it into Q2. So
for sure. So he'll get more familiar with the car and stuff. I think he'll just he seems like a guy that belongs there. So I think that's I think that's good. I like what he did this weekend. So I'm looking forward to watching him going forward.
I wish I was there to see the faces of everybody that complain about him just being a pay driver. He showed like he's got some skill today. So
no, for sure. Honorable mention for the winners column, I'm gonna say Mercedes fans.
Okay. Explain.
So through testing and whatnot, Mercedes fans have been on top of the world for the last 8 years. So it's not that I'm like, oh, poor Mercedes fans, the last 2 weeks have sucked for them. But like Red Bull, specifically Red Bull fans, have talked so much trash about Mercedes for the last 2 weeks. And so there was one guy on Twitter, I forget what he even said. It was something about the Red Bulls not finishing the race. And I'm just like, look, I feel like Mercedes and their fans have won the right to be just as petty as they want to be about this race result today, where none of it is like, oh, Mercedes is better, because obviously we know the car is not better than the Red Bull right now. So it's not like, it's nothing reasonable or anything like that. It's really just, hey, Red Bull fans, screw you.
Yeah.
And
your cars didn't finish.
And like, I'm not a Mercedes fan, but I appreciate, as like a New England Patriots fan, which I think is the closest thing to being a Mercedes fan. Sometimes
I think so.
Sometimes as a Patriots fan, because we won so much, it mattered less to me that we win than that somebody I didn't like lost.
I'm happier when you lose than when I win.
Dude, like I'm still like when the Baltimore Ravens lose, if the Patriots also lose, I'm like, I'm fine. The Ravens lost, cool.
We broke even.
For sure. So I think that was the Mercedes fans, where if you would have told them at the beginning of the race to be like, so look, Lewis and George are going to finish 9th and 10th, but Red Bull's going to have a double DNF, they would have signed up for that.
I think they would have been down for it.
Be like, you guys are going to be 9th and 10th on pace, but Red Bull have a double DNF. They would absolutely have signed up for that. So, so winners, the Mercedes fans, and
God, the pettiness.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. I applaud it. good job being just absolutely petty, vindictive jerks. I think that's a lost art. And I think that Mercedes fans have done a fabulous job at it for the last 8 hours, 9 hours or so on Twitter.
It kept the winter break interesting. Those fans.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
I'm going to give an honorable mention, and I'm just going to tell you right now that he's going to be in my honorable mentions every week of the year. Alex Albon.
Yep, go for it. Yep.
Just because.
There you go.
My favorite driver.
He'll DNF. Like, yep, Alexander Albon, winner this week.
Yeah.
Because he's a class act.
Yeah, he crashed really well. I'll give him an honorable mention for that. But I mean, seriously though, he did drive really well for the car that he had. Just outclassed his teammate. I think that's all that Williams can really ask for at this point. So I think he had a good weekend.
When you're Williams, you probably for Albon, it's all you can really compare it to is how much you beat your teammate by.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't even expecting to get into Q2, and the fact that Albon made it P14 in the first qualifying.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent in qualifying. He was really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alex Albon, that's fine.
Okay.
Who are your losers for the week?
I have. Well, I was tempted to put Red Bull just because they DNF, but it wasn't really the driver's fault. So I guess Red Bull, the team, losers. They just looked good all weekend.
And nothing.
Yeah, I know. Even if it wasn't their fault, the fact that they both DNF'd kind of sucks. And in the Gasly issue too, I will roll that into under the Red Bull umbrella, for one of my losers. And then other than that, I didn't really see anybody else that really, like, no drivers that really performed terribly. I will probably have to put McLaren on there. Just because, Jesus, they just looked so slow.
Yeah.
McLaren, I mean, we already talked pretty much in depth about them. And then maybe Alonso. He qualified higher than Ocon, and then in the race just looked so much slower than Ocon did, and then finished behind Ocon as well. So, I mean, he didn't have a terrible race, but considering where he started compared to his teammate, and then where he finished compared to his teammate, I think Alonso didn't have a really good weekend.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ocon just got more out of the car than he did for whatever reason this weekend. I'm sure there'll be weeks going forward when Alonso gaps him, because they're fairly.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're fairly evenly matched at this point, but it's not usually like. It's not like in 1 week. It's usually that one of them is far ahead, or decently ahead of the other. Yeah, they just trade that back and forth.
Yeah, they were pretty close all race. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, Ocon finished ahead of Alonso last year too, but Alonso DNF'd at Bahrain. So I'm wondering if maybe it's just the track.
Maybe Bahrain suits him. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's it for my list. How about you?
So my top loser is Aston Martin.
Yeah. Well,
because just in general. So look, Aston Martin is the team that used to be Racing Point, and before that it was Force India, and going way, way back, it was Jordan F1. All right. And it was a plucky little midfield team run by a maniac. And that was true at both Jordan and Force India.
Yeah.
It was perpetually on the brink of bankruptcy. Again, true of Jordan, true of Force India, and true of every name that it had in between.
Yeah.
But it was always like, the plucky little team that could. And, Jordan overachieved. They won races. They competed for championships. Force India, with the resources that they had, I think they never finished lower than like 7th in the constructors or something like that.
You could say they overachieved
for sure. Force India was good. Vijay Mallya is a criminal, but Force India was good. And then here comes Lawrence Stroll and Aston Martin, pumping all this money into the team, rebranding it, expanding the facilities, and all that stuff. And then this is it. They built a really nice looking car, but it doesn't work. Ferrari, to their credit, built the prettiest Formula One car in years, maybe decades, and it works.
Yeah.
That's maybe the impressive part of the Ferrari is how good looking it is versus how fast it is. It's great at both. The Aston Martin, it still looks really, really good, but apparently they're already working on a totally different body package for it. They said they have the AMR 22B in the wind tunnel. It looks totally different from the car. I'm sure it'll show up looking, you know what it'll be? It'll just be a green car with no side pods.
Yeah. I mean, how early did they know that this car sucked, that they already have a new car in the making?
I don't know.
They must have known like day one at Spain or something, man.
It had to have been if they're already working on it.
Yeah.
But it's just, for whatever reason, I don't know if I'm sure they'll figure some part of it out eventually someday.
Yeah.
But part of the magic of the Silverstone team has not made the transition to Aston Martin.
You want to know how they fix that team? Get Lawrence
Sell it
Stroll
back to Eddie Jordan.
No, get Lawrence Stroll the fuck out of anything to do with the car. I know you probably don't watch Drive to Survive much, but last year there was an episode where Lawrence Stroll like walked into a meeting and you could just feel the tension. Like nobody wanted him in there. Like everybody was staring at him like, dude, you just have money. You know nothing about this fucking car. He walked in there and he was like, you guys have 20 minutes, go. And you could just see it on everybody's face, like
a jerk.
This mother trucker, and I guarantee you that he's doing that in the way that he was pretty much center stage at the car launch this year and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you have money. You probably know enough about cars to like, drive a sports car on the weekend or something like that. But leave all the technical stuff to the people that know that stuff. I think
probably the way to do it.
Yeah. I think Otmar being fired was probably the dumbest thing they could have done. Especially going into new regs like this. I think I thought Otmar was doing a pretty decent job, and then they just let him go. And I guarantee you that was Lawrence Stroll becoming impatient or something like that, and just firing. I think
that's what Otmar said about it afterwards. Basically,
is that what he said?
You couldn't have two popes.
Yeah.
So he's always good for a quote like that.
Yeah, I guarantee you that's what it is. I think the moment Lawrence Stroll decides, to leave the technical stuff to the technical people, I think that team will start to do better. But for now, I think he's making it too much about himself and not enough about actually winning. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I do wonder at what point Lance Stroll is identified as an issue.
Yeah.
Like he's not the worst. He's not even bad. He's a good driver. Anybody that can put a car on pole in Formula One in the wet clearly has skill. Lance Stroll's done that. But
he's just inconsistent.
No, yeah. And just, I don't know, man. Like he's at some point they're gonna have to say, all right, look, we have to put two drivers in these cars. And look, I don't know what Seb Vettel's going to do this season, but he was great last year. So, is it going to be Vettel and then somebody else, or will they just keep Stroll around as long as Lawrence Stroll owns the team? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, with the car that they have now, I don't think it'll really matter anyway, but
no, it probably won't unless they do some work.
They just have issues everywhere on that team right now.
Second loser, I gotta go Max Verstappen, and two reasons. Multiple reasons. He was
whinging a lot on the radio today.
That was sort of the thing.
Yeah. All race long.
Like I get that when it's round 18, round 19, but it's the first race of the season.
Yeah. You
chill just like a little bit.
This team just gave you a championship winning car last year.
Right. And especially the stuff about, about the overcut and the undercut.
Yeah.
He was whining about that. It's like, oh yeah, I could have been out in front of him. It's like
The numbers showed he wouldn't have been.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And then the issues with the car, and I realized, yeah, you ended up having the issue with the battery, but specifically about the steering. Where the team's like, well, all right, it's stabilized, so you got 8 laps left. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing we can do. Like that's what they told them.
So I didn't care for that. I thought the racing with Leclerc was good.
He kept it clean.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Yeah, so, it was good. So, but then just the end of the race, the car goes out. I mean, there's nothing he could have done about that. So, I'm not saying that anything happened because of him. I'm just saying it was not his. Even if he would have finished second, I wouldn't have called him a loser, but I still would have said, yeah, that did a little bit of whining. And let's face it, people always say that Lewis Hamilton is a whiner on the radio, and Max whined as much as anybody on the radio today. So third, it's got to be McLaren. And honestly, I would have put McLaren first, except it's just the Aston Martin, the hype is what bothers me.
Yeah.
Where, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to come back and compete for championships. And McLaren's like, no, this is difficult. We hope to do well, but at least they've been humble about it.
Yeah.
It bothers me that you have Daniel Ricciardo and you have Lando Norris, who are 2 guys that should be at the sharp end of the grid. And now you got this car that
they're 2 of the better drivers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I do feel a little bit bad for Lando Norris to have just signed a 5-year deal.
Ooh, I know.
I don't know where else he would go, but yeah, that sucks a little bit.
He had a good qualifying. It wasn't terrible.
He's talented, but that's the thing is, I think you can get a lap out of a car. Albon, was good in qualifying too, and maybe the car didn't quite have it during the race.
Yeah. He pretty much finished where he qualified.
Yeah.
Whereas Norris tumbled down the standings.
Yeah, that medium tire start was not, heavy on fuel and all that stuff. You're gonna be real slow. I didn't think that was their best plan.
Yeah, and then they were even having issues, like I said, getting in front of Latifi and getting in front of Hulkenberg in slower cars too. So yeah, I will have to agree with you on McLaren. I don't. It doesn't look like it's going to be solved anytime soon either. So it'll probably be pretty painful for them for the next couple of races.
A little bit. Yeah. So I have a text from you.
Yeah.
So what did we think about? Let's go through our power units.
Yeah.
And see what we think. Starting with Ferrari.
I think Ferrari looked good. Obviously, didn't have the straight line speed that the Red Bulls did, but I don't know if that was just aero dependent or if it was the engine itself. But considering that the Alfa Romeos and the Haas's looked pretty quick too, I think I would say they would probably be number 2 on my ranking.
Really? Ferrari number 2? That's interesting. Who do you have number 1?
Well, just for performance anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess they would be number 1 if you want to go performance and reliability.
I was going to say, just as a reminder, all the Ferraris finished the race.
Yeah. Oh, I was just talking performance-wise.
Oh, okay.
The Red Bulls looked quicker, but again, like I said, I don't know how much that had to do with aero and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess Ferrari will be number 1 if you want to just go the complete package. They finished the race. They finished 1-2. Alfa Romeo's had a good day. Haas's had a good day. Yeah, and then I would probably put Red Bull second, and then Renault. Although it's kind of difficult because they only have 2 cars, but they look pretty quick on the straights too. And then Mercedes obviously would be last.
Yeah, it's difficult with Mercedes because the actual Mercedes, I'm sure it is a drag problem. And maybe that's true of Alfa Romeo or of Aston Martin as well. They think porpoising is costing them 3/4 of a second a lap.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to jack the floor up so high.
Yeah. But then, the McLaren doesn't have that issue. It's just slow. So,
yeah.
But then, Albon was pretty fast through the speed traps.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It seems to work. It's Mercedes. I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, I would say Ferrari tops overall, followed by Red Bull, just because the Ferrari seems to have really good, I don't know if it's just really good like bottom end torque. It accelerates really well coming out of the turns, has nice traction.
Yeah.
It seems to work really, really well. And the Renault seems fine, but yeah, with only the two cars, it's a little bit tougher to judge. I think they're all relative, that they're all seem to be in a pretty decent place. It's not like last
they're
season.
competitive.
It's not like when Mercedes came in with the Hamilton engine, where it seems like at this point it's pretty clear that they were trying things in Valtteri's engines to try to get something together for Hamilton and maybe something for this season. Because he used like 7 engines. And and then Hamilton got that Brazil engine and was like, bro, what the hell is going on? So and it was just a massive gap from Mercedes to everybody else. So that we're on pretty level playing field, seems like, with all 4 of the power units, where nobody is wildly down on pace. That's pretty good.
It's got to be difficult for the teams. They've got that new fuel this year too, so I don't know how much testing they would have done last year with it, off the track. So I'm sure there's still a little bit of fine tuning and tweaking. I know they can't really make any engine upgrades. They can just do reliability upgrades. Who knows?
So you're better off, at this point. It's like, well, just build yourself a glass cannon, because if you can make the power, you can make changes to make it reliable.
Right. As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we've gone on for about an hour and a half so far.
Yeah, it was a good race.
We would be a little bit more enjoyable start to the season.
Yeah, we would be a little bit more enthusiastic about it, but it is kind of late at night now.
Yeah.
And I had a full work day today. But
yes, and I was hanging around with my children all day. So
that's probably more energy draining than working.
It's the same sort of thing. It may as well be work. Honestly, I'll go to work tomorrow and just be driving around in my truck all day, and that'll be easier.
There you go.
Are you working on anything? Oh, we got the thing.
Yeah. Kurt and I are working on a new series for the channel now with the F1 game. I've got a few races recorded, and then just got to do a little bit of editing, and then have Kurt do some voiceovers, and then hopefully you guys will enjoy it if you are into idiotic, stupid crap with some driving in the background. Yeah. I think people will like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think aside from waiting for that so that I can do the narration for that, I'm not working on anything at all. I've been painting Warhammer figures. That's about it.
Yeah. So, you told me that the other day.
Yeah. Well, I do finally have. Did I tell you? I finally got a couch in this room.
Did you?
I did. Well, so my wife bought a industrial sewing machine.
Okay.
And to fit it in her sewing room down the hall, she had to get rid of her couch. So I took the couch, which is a very nice couch. My cat is over here enjoying the couch right now.
I think I saw him.
Yeah, I had to cut the feet off of the couch to get it down the hallway here. But yeah, no. So now I have a couch, so I have a place to sit aside from the chair I'm sitting in right now down here, which is nice.
Yeah.
A lot of housework type stuff that we have going on right now. So I don't have time for any of the other stuff, and we're also starting to get busy at my job. So so I can give you guys updates on lumber delivery and whatnot. So a lot of wood. It's good stuff.
Yeah, if you guys need any, just put it in the comment section.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. If you need anything, let me know. I'll drop it off. You don't have to pay for anything. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If you leave a 5-star review, I will bring you a full lift of 2x4s. No questions asked. Yeah. So
the next race is. Oh, it's next weekend. It's this week. Oh, geez. All right. Yeah. Oh, it was a quick start to this.
Oh, you're already over there.
Yeah, and then Australia 2 weeks later. But hopefully we will have another show for everybody next week, and then we'll have some other material out before then. The editing is really time consuming, so been working on it for a while now.
Nice. Well, there we go. See, eventually we'll have something to make out of it. It's fine.
Yeah, and
So
hopefully we'll record earlier next week, so we have a little bit
that
more
would be
energy
good.
in the show.
I think it's like a 1:00 race or something, isn't it? A little bit later in the day. It's weird.
Wait, why is it saying 1 a.m.? Oh, that's the Australian one. Okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, 1 p.m. Oh, I wonder if I can get out of work early next week. Maybe I can actually catch it live. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the certainly for the US Grand Prix, we'll do our live watch along again.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that for one of the other races coming up. Probably not Australia.
We'll figure
something out. But
yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks for listening or watching if you're seeing this on YouTube. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right. See you guys next week.
Latest.